Today's episode, we talk about upcoming remakes and remasters we look forward to, along with what we would want remade from the ground up, just like Final Fantasy VII. Join us on the Drunken Guardian podcast. When you think of the mojito, you mostly think about the mint or the refreshing taste of the rum with the mint. What if you wanted something a bit more bold, something a little bit more savory? This is why I'm going to introduce you to the Bourbon Smash. It's essentially a mojito with bourbon. Remember, the more mint and lemons you use with this cocktail build, the more space will be taken into your glass along with the ice and the liquid. So choose wisely with how much you use before it ends up overflowing everything. First thing you're going to need is 7 to 10 mint leaves, depending on your taste, 1.5 ounce of your choice bourbon, 1/4 ounce of lemon juice, or you can muddle some lemon wedges with the mint. You're going to put 1/2 ounce of simple syrup and then 3 dashes of Angostura bitter. Go ahead and dump everything into your shaker and shake and dump it all into a tall glass. You're going to garnish with a few mint sprigs. Enjoy. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today's guest is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Gene, one of my old co-workers in my bar days. What's up, Gene?
What's up, Dan? What's up, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. Gene is joining us today for today's topic, and that is remakes and remasters. Since Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, there's been a lot of discussion about what other type of games people would like remade. And me and Gene, we talked about this before the episode. Remastered is a different word. It's a different definition. I'm not asking for remasters. Remasters is more of just putting a fresh coat of paint over something that's already existed. Yep. Final Fantasy VII, it's been remade from the ground up, completely from scratch, brand new. So those are the type of games that we're going to want and talk about. Gene, is there anything you want to play that is similar to how they did with Final Fantasy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in the vein of how Final Fantasy had come up from the ground up, like you were saying before, I'd seen what they did with the Resident Evil series and Resident Evil 2.
Yeah,
I was very impressed by that. A lot of the PlayStation 1 era games in that vein had a lot of story. You really connected with a lot of the characters, and they had a lot of tone. So specifically Resident Evil 2, the tone was really heavy. I mean, the way that PlayStation wanted to carry that over. The horror elements were there. Going back in the day, you could really feel those elements. But now, updated graphics and story and the way that they could play out cinematically is beyond any gamer's dream now. Like, I think that it'll carry even more emotional tone and give the games a lot more life. So that just longevity going forward is limitless. If they decide to take it up to the next gen consoles even further down the line, I mean, they still have that creativity as well. Like especially with the remake that they did in Final Fantasy VII, I think that they hit it out of the park. And going back to the way that they played it out cinematically, I mean, they could just throw the kitchen sink at it and just carry it on through the ages, pretty much. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna stick my teeth into the Resident Evil 2. Just to have that sense of nostalgia, but also it's also a breath of fresh air. That's my take on those two games. As far as like other games that are from that era, I'd say
you mentioned Resident Evil 2. Like, what about 3? Like, did you like the original Resident Evil 3? Would you be willing to do the remake for that one?
Yeah, I could definitely put some hours into that too. Like, that's the other thing too. Going back to that whole series is that whole series is iconic. I mean, they could do each and every one of those, and it'd still be great. Especially the ones that came out on Resident Evil 6, for example. It was one of the ones that I actually played and was very, very impressed by that. But 3 I could definitely lay down some hours on that. It's just a lot. It's a lot of. That's the thing too. Like they haven't lost the grind element either. Like they carry over a lot of the cinematic elements to it, but a lot of the elements that are carried over from those games are still present. Like the RPG aspects of it, mechanics are still there and improved as well. And that's what's really enticing now with these new with the new next gen consoles. It's
that
really,
that brings a question that we talked about before in a couple episodes back. Like you say, like, you know, like the Resident Evil series, those remakes, like they still have that same energy, the same vibe, and then the same mechanics of their predecessors. There's been a discussion online every now and then that I'll run into about whether they should already remake Resident Evil 4. And some people say that it's too soon, you know, even though it was freaking back at the GameCube era, you know, they still say it's too soon. Like, it's still a good game if you played it right now as it is. Like, do you think a Resident Evil 4 remake is something that they should work on next?
That's you know, you're right. That's kind of like a tough point to pivot on. Yeah, I do remember that one vividly as well. Like, it's a tough thing when I don't necessarily think that one would entice a remake. I'd say it's. I would go in the camp to say it's fine for now. I think later on, like, give it another generation before you try and remake it. Because I mean,
I agree.
I mean, it's still fresh in my mind. I mean, running down those narrow pathways with somebody with a chainsaw chasing is like, I still remember that. That's just like burned in my mind. So, yeah, I don't think it deserves a remake for now. It's still fresh, and for what it's worth, I still have the GameCube somewhere. I could just load it up and just, you know.
Yeah, that's true. You know. I think it could wait another generation before, or maybe towards the end of this new generation coming up, like we can come out with like a remake of 4. There's a couple of games. There's a couple of it seems like remakes and remasters for that matter, but remakes are a huge trend lately. Like, so we got a bunch of stuff that's coming out this year and next. Like I just saw a freaking trailer for Battletoads, which is, you know, old game. Probably one of the hardest games ever made. So
that from NES,
yeah. So Demon Souls, eat your heart out because you got nothing, you know, against Battletoads. But yeah, there's a Battletoads remake that's out. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 is coming out. They've got this is more of a sequel, but like you know, there's Oddworld Soulstorm, which is like you know, they're going back to the roots of the old Abe's Odyssey games. And of course, there's Demon Souls. Demon Souls is like the OG original Dark Souls game. So is there anything that you look forward to being made? Like any games like back then when you were a child, like that you would like remade the same way that these games are being remade?
Yeah, I mean, going back, I think, let's say childhood is far away from me.
Yeah.
So going back, let's take it back to the 80s and Nintendo. Yeah, Battletoads is like one of those things that I'm looking forward to now. That's like a nostalgia way for me specifically, because I still remember those days where I was like, this game is great, but it's hard. You just don't ever forget those games. So like, yeah, I've read some things online about it, but I haven't had my chance to play the particular game. But
yeah, it doesn't seem as hard. It's it seems like it's difficult, but it's not frustrating. Like Terrier, like it doesn't feel like it's broken like the original was.
Right. Yeah. Getting those levels is one of those things too. Like I don't know. I was
like, you got Cthulhu in the background. What the hell was that?
Explosions.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, yeah, I was. I was saying that I do welcome the remakes of the old those old style games, the 2D platformers. So I'm looking forward to Battletoads. I really hope that they keep that difficulty in place, because it'll just cheapen it for me if I can't successfully beat the hover bike stage as an adult. So I really hope that they kept that alive.
They so remember in the original the hover bike scene was side scrolling still.
Yeah.
And so, like, your character was on the left for those people who never played the game. Your character's on the left side of the screen, and on the far right, there would be a flashing wall, and it'll be different shapes, so you'll know how to dodge it in some sort of way. So things would happen so freaking fast because you don't know what's coming next. It almost made it impossible to beat that stage, and that was actually the breaking point for a lot of players back then, was that stage specifically, because it was so hard, it was so broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was impossible to dodge everything. And but so I mentioned this because I wanted to let you know that they do still have the hover bike level, but they changed it to where now you could see up front, forward. So it's not side scrolling anymore. The view is forward now, so you can see everything that's coming towards you.
There we go.
So it's still hard. It still gets hard because I've seen some clips of like how fast you have to dodge these things.
All right.
But at least you know what's coming.
Well, that's good. It's more in line with the times now. So we get the front, the facing of the front. So
yeah. So do you have any games aside from Battletoads that you would like remade? So is there any games I would ask like that you can replay or that you love now as a child, and you would love like to replay it again brand new?
I know they've done several iterations of Turtles in Time.
Ooh.
But, the Turtles arcade was great. I really enjoyed those type of beat 'em up games. Final Fight.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage. Double Dragon. Yeah.
Oh.
Double Dragon has been remade. So there's a 3D version of that that's out. I do work with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the game. Oh, those were the games that were like my childhood games. So
you like the beat 'em up games?
Yeah, the beat 'em up games are great.
Yeah.
One specifically, I don't know if you ever remember a game called Saturday Night Slam Masters that came out for Super Nintendo back in the day. But it was like
sounds like wrestling.
It was a wrestling game.
Okay.
A wrestling game, but it was also like a side scroller beat 'em up.
Okay.
I think that deserves an honorable mention for remake.
Yeah, like obscure stuff too. They should bring back. Just because it's not a AAA game that everybody remembers doesn't mean it shouldn't warrant a remake. If it's made, if it's done right.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the biggest games that I would love a remake of, and again, it's a bit obscure. I think more people know it than don't, but it's not one of those games that like scream like recognition. And it was for the Super Nintendo. It was called ActRaiser. You ever played that one?
Oh, ActRaiser. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for those who haven't played ActRaiser, it was a side scrolling like hack and slash, but it was also a simulator. It was the weirdest shit. It was like you played as a god, and you go around this map and you create towns, and you kind of just create it's like think of it kind of like SimCity. So like you're building the towns, you're building the crops, you're building all these different things to try to like keep the towns going and bustling and breathing with life and feeding the people. You give them rain, you give them thunder, you give them earthquakes, you give them all this stuff as a god. And then every now and then these towns would get attacked, or there would be like these portals or these like holes and stuff that would like be nearby the town, and they'd pose a threat for some reason. So as a god, you send your minion down, and that's when it turns into a side-scrolling hack and slash game with some amazing freaking music and like
absolutely
pretty cool bosses too. So like I don't know if a remake would be nice for that game, like if like to turn it into like a 3D game. Like I would love for it to still stay like a 2D, like half side scrolling, half like top down SimCity type thing. I do know though that's one of my favorite games that like sticks with me even now.
I think you're right on the money. I think going back to the Final Fantasy conversation, like those are the type of games that you could uh, essentially what you described as the world. Like that in itself is like you can go cinema on that all day. Like it's just story building with an act raiser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you were to give it the Final Fantasy VII remake treatment, then I think it's yeah, that just bleeds epicness, man.
Yeah, it had a bit of a Greek type of feel, so I guess they could kind of do like a Greek aesthetic or something, maybe even Roman, more so
Sure.
Greek maybe. Any other games for you?
I'd say going back to we're big on samurais now. You've got the two samurai games that are out.
I mean, like Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
What, like Sekiro?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So got those two out that are awesome, but there are a couple of ones that I reminded of back in the day where just in that same vein, like Onimusha on PlayStation 2.
Oh God, yes. They were talking about a remastered for that, but a remake would be great.
Yeah, the lore in that, like, I mean, we're just going back to that point in time where, yeah, I think this is where that wave is coming from. Everything about that game is for me is just absolutely epic.
Yeah.
Lore, the art direction, and going back to tone, the tone of that game is like, yeah, it's very reminiscent of the Resident Evil series in itself. Like you were talking about, fighting zombie samurais and demons and protecting the princess and gauntlets with stones of power type of deal.
Yeah, yeah. They could really turn it into Ghost of Tsushima, but just supernatural, basically.
Right.
Since Ghost of Tsushima was a lot more grounded and realistic, yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah,
I would I think everybody says this, but like I would love a Chrono Trigger remake.
Oh man,
they had a sequel to that called Chrono Cross, and it was for, I believe, PS1. Mm-hmm. And it although it was technically a sequel, it didn't touch on anything that happened in the first game, because it just takes place after the events and in the same world, but it had completely different characters, and they had very few references to the first game. But it was still a good game. But regardless, a remake of Chrono Trigger would be great, even more so because you could make that into this whole, let's say, like a trilogy of games. Yeah. You can connect this world into a bunch of other stuff and kind of just make this epic thing. With time travel and this freaking lava god thing, and everybody loves it. Everybody loves Chrono Trigger. People still play it to this day.
There's a lot of people that are responsible for the Final Fantasy series, especially working on Chrono Trigger. Yeah, I think some of the designers that worked on that specifically from Final Fantasy, and I think the other notables are I'm just going off of notes here, but Akira Toriyama from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, he did the Dragon Quest games.
Yeah,
he did the art style for the Dragon Quest games, which, if you notice, like a lot of the characters look like Goku and Trunks and Bulma, and because it's the same art style. Yeah,
that's the thing too. Now, like having development teams, like you never really put a fine point on like development teams coming back together to work on the same, or remaking the title, but I think that's a trifecta in itself. Like having the same people back to remake it, and having the same that same wave of feeling, the same emotion in the game would speak bounds, and keep pushing that story, or that license beyond the next gens. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, remakes could definitely give the franchises longevity, because you could I guess you can take certain liberties with changing things up to kind of extend it, and whether it be the story or the world, things like that, so that way you can kind of like make sequels on top of that. And no matter what, the gaming industry is always going to milk everything as much as possible, but if you're going to milk it, at least make it good. You can see, for example, like the I mean, they're not remakes, but just a good example of something, you're beating a dead horse is like the Metal Gear series.
Yeah.
I think Hideo Kojima wanted to be done since the second game, and he wanted that to be it. But, he kept on coming back. And he's kind of sick of it. But he comes out with 3, then he comes out with 4. And 4 was supposed to be the last one. And then he's practically strong-armed into Metal Gear 5. And 5 was a train wreck. What was that?
They got to feed the fanboys.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, there was never enough closure for anybody. And that includes freaking Konami. Because they just wanted to milk this cash cow, and it got to the point where you just dried it out, and it was ruined. And then they came out with, what was it, Metal Gear Survive? Yes, Metal Gear Survive. So survival horror game, basically, because they just ripped off. They just took the engine that Kojima used for Metal Gear 5, and then they just made some else on it, and it was some awful bullshit. Revengeance was really good. Like, it was a completely different game, but it was like just some ridiculous action-packed game.
Yeah, like hack and slash, right?
Yeah. It was pretty hard hack and slash, actually. Like the bosses are pretty tough. The rest of the game wasn't so much as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that last boss. That was ridiculous. But they I remember playing Metal Gear 2 and falling for that same trick, thinking that I'm gonna play as Snake, and then you end up playing as some green guy named Raiden, and they redeemed him. He's a fucking badass now. He's a badass robotic ninja.
Yeah, I mean, those in those series, like, they have to throw the wrench in, because like you said, like there's going to be the narrative for the overall story is going to be in the developer's mind is finite, but then the way that they're going to do it, they're just going to have to force the narrative now. They have to force it. And then you have filler like Metal Gear Survive, which is, I mean, filler in the sense where zombies were like the rage after Call of Duty. Now it's like everybody has to have a zombie game. Fuck it, let's have it. But I mean, I do recall this one in a little bit, but it's just not worth it's not worth remembering, because there were so many zombie games at the time. It's just like, why? Yeah,
sometimes it's not the fault of the developers. There are times where like it's either who owns the franchise or it's the publishers. They like to get their little hands on everything and change things up, or force people to make this and throw in that and change this, and for them, those are essentially your bosses because they're paying for your game. So you kind of have to listen to them, or else you're fired. So it's a tough thing. Sometimes you're just stuck with making a shitty game, and then it's not fair for the developers to get the reputation that they make bad games. Like look for example, Mass Effect. We talked about Mass Effect before. Mass Effect Andromeda. Awful game.
Yes.
And I don't believe it was BioWare's fault, because they were rushed into this game by their publishers.
Yeah.
So they cut all these corners, and I'm sure they're just like, all right, we can cut these corners, and hopefully we can fix all this stuff. With like day one patches and like with other patches in the future and stuff. But like the damage was done by the time the game was out. Yeah. I mean, that's just because, everybody else that shouldn't have their fingers in the pot or sticking their fingers in the pot, and they're just ruining the whole thing.
That's absolutely right, man. The way that EA mishandled that was absolutely catastrophic. We're talking about Mass Effect 1, which is like BioWare's flagship one. Well, not flagship IP, but just the first one they published themselves. And then going Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, EA have their hands all over that, and they're driving the ship. So like, after Mass Effect 1 was like caught fire, it was just like, my God, this is an opus. This is great. this is like I can't even tell you how many fucking hours I spent on that game. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those games where you can sit down and it's like, I'm gonna get every fucking achievement. I'm gonna like buy every book, every comic book, which I did. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I just absolutely eviscerated my nerd brain on this IP. But so I did all that. Got 2 and 3. Spent pretty much my entire summer indoors playing both these games. And then Mass Effect Andromeda drops, and it's like there's no ethic here. There's no soul here. What is this?
Yeah, that's a good one. This is a good way to put it. There was no soul, especially in the faces of all those NPC characters who had no facial expressions.
Exactly. It's just like, what the fuck is this? These are the worst actors I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And then BioWare again fucks up because they came out with Anthem. And that was another one of those games where they were pressured to hell because of EA. Mm-hmm. What was it? Activision. I'm sorry. It was one or the other. But regardless, you have no idea how excited I was for Anthem. You know that I'm a Destiny fanatic.
Oh, absolutely.
And the freaking podcast is partly because of Destiny. Thank you. And what's it say? So Anthem came out, this trailer, and it was fucking amazing. Like they talked about how this is going to be like somewhat of an MMO. It was this third person, amazing. Like, you're fucking Iron Man and you're shooting these missiles and doing all these crazy specials and space magic and shit like that. And like, you can travel anywhere around the world and this open thing. And the graphics were like the best thing you've ever seen. And then you didn't hear anything for maybe a year or two. Then they dropped the ball. They released the trailer. They announced when the game was going to come out. The trailer looked nothing like the original trailer that they showed because the graphics were dumbed down to all hell compared to, what they showed. This was like that Killzone 2 fiasco when the PlayStation 4 came out. Like, do you remember like when Killzone 2 came out, or sorry, when the trailer came out for Killzone 2 and it looked so goddamn real? Like, it looked like a movie, and everyone was like, no, that's not the graphics. Like, no way are the graphics looking that good in a PS4 game. PS3 game. Mm-hmm. And was it either Sony or the developers? They were just like, no, those are the graphics. We swear those are the graphics. And then they released another trailer and it was completely different. It was so garbage. Well, it wasn't garbage. It was probably the best graphics it was at the time for the PS3, but it was still nowhere near what they had showed. So this is the same thing with Anthem. And then of course we already know the rest. Like, the gameplay was shitty. It was repetitive. The loot system was god awful. And the thing is because they only took 2, 3, maybe 4 years to make the game for something this large, this huge. Like, this was supposed to be the Destiny killer, and I was looking forward to it to be the Destiny killer, and it wasn't. And
these were the times of the grandiose statements, like you just said, Destiny killer.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure they didn't say the Destiny killer, but there were damn sure a lot of fans out there, BioWare fans, that were just like, oh, this is it. This is gonna kill Destiny because this is the next MMORPG. Yeah, and this tarnished their reputation even more.
Absolutely, that was part of the mystique about that particular game, because after Andromeda had dropped, that was like such a huge letdown, and it was like, you know what, this is crap. This is what's going on with this, and then you hear Anthem, BioWare's working on this, and it's like, well. Ooh. This is what they were spending all their time on. Let's see what the hell's up with this. In that sense, yeah, like it just didn't make any sense. But
yeah, sorry, I got a bit distracted because of the thunder. I don't know if that was your side or my side.
No clue.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, that was definitely you.
As a huge flash just came out. Back to the remake stuff. I mean, back to the remake stuff. Like, we're talking about, how Anthem fucked up. They're in a way, they're remaking Anthem now as we speak. They, I don't know if you ever played like the original Final Fantasy 14 game, the online game.
Online? Can't say that I have, but Uh, the online element definitely. I definitely held some interest for the online element of that. I just never actually got my hands on it, but I'm still curious to this day. So
I would suggest now you do it if you got a good enough PC for it, because I was one of the original players for Final Fantasy 14 and 11 as well, but with 14 it was a bit broken,
right.
And they remade the game like from the ground up. They completely remade it and they called it The Realm Reborn. And I still hadn't touched it. I still never replayed the game after they had released all this new groundwork for it. But mostly because there's more thunder. Thor is not happy. What was I saying? So I hadn't played the game even after the remake was done, mostly because of the subscription fee. I'm not a big fan of like paying monthly for a game. So I didn't give it a try for a while, but I jumped on it again. I jumped on it again about 2 weeks ago. And the reason why is because they're doing this thing. If you want to jump on that yourself, is and I don't know how long the promotion is going for, but you can download the game for free and play up to level 60. Yeah, like the base game and one of their expansions. You can play all throughout it for free with no subscription. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, right on.
Got another Square Enix game that I would love a remake for. Legend of Dragoon. Did you ever play that game?
Yes. Classic, man. The Square Enix stable in itself is there. I mean, aside from 13, which I didn't put a lot of effort in, RPGs they come out with, they're great. Like they're things that I sink my time into. Whenever I feel that there is time that I have to do so. But
yeah, that was a good game. One game everybody knows that I would love a remake of, brand new, Silent Hill, which, if the rumors are true, hopefully Konami is actually working on a brand new remake, not just like another bullshit sequel.
I'm all game for that as well. I mean, those are the types of games that I enjoy, aside from the beat 'em ups. But the
horror games,
just the gloomy feel, like it just envelops all your senses, like that. Specifically Silent Hill, because there's just a lot more. I think there's a lot more tension in it compared to Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil just creeps you the hell out, but Silent Hill, like it makes your skin crawl.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it'd probably do the opposite for me. I think like Silent Hill would creep me out, but Resident Evil would make her skin crawl just because of all the grossness and all the crazy, nasty stuff they show, and the blood and guts and skin and the contorting zombies and shit like that. But yeah, Silent Hill is one of those games where you can still play it now and still be creeped out. As it is, it's just, the graphics. A lot of people can't get through the graphics. The tank controls, like Resident Evil style tank mechanics, the way you move around and stuff is not something people can tolerate as much anymore. It's funny, the signature mist, the fog that is so famous for the games, was actually a technical limitation for the PlayStation. It wasn't like designed to be that way. So, they kind of did that because they couldn't render so much at once. So they kind of put in that fog to kind of like help the system move along. Yeah, essentially. But it worked. So like I could imagine now how they could do something like that, like make the fog super thick, but like you can still like play with the mechanics a little bit, how to scare people, jump scares, whatever it may be. Give it an extra creep factor now with the new technology. Actually, I could imagine like with the new lighting effects and stuff like that for the new systems, like imagine like you can still kind of see through the fog a little bit, but you see like silhouettes of things moving here and there, and like you don't know what it is, if it's safe or not. Like I could see them doing something like that.
No, yeah, the graphics for that specifically be greatly improved on the new consoles. But yeah. Yeah, that's something I would definitely want to see. Like, the eye candy for that would be amazing.
Yeah.
2 and 3 were good as well.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't crazy about 3. It was good. It wasn't that bad, but compared to the other ones, yeah, 1 and 2. I think 2 was the fan favorite for most, especially because of like the twist ending that happened in there, which was pretty good. Story had pretty good story beats and such. I really like The Room. Do you remember that one? Did you play that one?
I don't think so.
Silent Hill: The Room. Did you hear about it at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty good, and it was like an obscure story. Like, they didn't explain a lot, but it was, I feel like it was maybe up for interpretation a lot. It was still done really well, especially that creep factor. Still, like, stuck in a room, first person view, and like seeing a lot of weird shit. And then like you crawl into a hole, and then you end up in Silent Hill, and then you play the game as you normally would as any other Silent Hill game, which it was a cool concept. It was a good twist, and they kind of lost that with the rest of the games, like 5 and 6.
Yeah, there's always something about those particular games. When you're running alongside Resident Evil as well, like you kind of like want to see what each one is doing. Like, if this one can top this one, or vice versa. Yeah, it's like just like anything else. It's like who could be the most grotesque one. So I think in this case, I think it went to Resident Evil.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Resident Evil definitely had the horror factor.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to have Silent Hill as like a really, 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 really close second. It's like, come on, you can do it a little bit better. Come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. I think it all depended on the monsters, or it depends on the games the game for that matter, because each game was kind of had its own art style. They had different monsters. Some of them were gory, some of them were more abstract. Some of the games were more about the atmosphere. Others were about the nastiness and the grime and the slime and all that stuff that goes on in the darker world. What are you playing right now? Like you just playing on your console, your PS4? What are you doing on there?
I mean, currently I've been playing. It's been out for a year already, but there's this game on Xbox. It's called West of Dead, which is sort of like an undead Western shooter. It's sort of it's second person, but it's a side scroller, but it's really good. The story is really good. Like, you play like a sort of like a dead cowboy in that's stuck in purgatory, and purgatory just happens to be like the
Old West.
Yeah, but it's underground. Like, it's like you're buried underground, and you're like in tunnels. You're wearing poncho, and you basically look like Ghost Rider. And you're voiced by Ron Perlman, which is great.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Ron Perlman voices him. So it's you're just you're going through these tunnels, and every once in a while there's a bar where you meet the barkeep. It's like, don't go in there, stranger. So you can choose to drink at the bar too, which is great. But, you're basically going around like shooting undead like Civil War soldiers and things like that.
Okay.
There are monsters as well. They're like mystical, like hellish beings and stuff. But you're basically fighting them with like old style revolvers, like old style pistols and shotguns and other things of that nature. But it's been out for a year, but it's really fun. Like, I recommend it if you're out there and you're on Xbox. I mean, I'm sure it's cross-platform. So
yeah, I'll see if they have it on PS4. I sadly haven't touched my Xbox since I switched to Destiny 2 on my PS4. So it's actually been a couple of years. I know maybe some of the listeners will hate me for saying that. Like, yeah, I'm not biased towards any system. I think they both have their perks, but we talked about this in the last episode, how Xbox have really dropped the ball when it comes to exclusive games. Like, they have nothing.
That is Halo. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty, and not even that, because one of my buddies mentioned, he said, even if you don't have an Xbox, you can still play Halo on a PC. So like, they shoot themselves in the foot, because that's not even exclusive, because you can still play it on the PC. So like, I haven't touched my Xbox in a very long time because there's nothing worth getting that I can't get on my PS4. And there's nothing special about the PS4 you know, when it comes to like buying these games in one way or the other, the only reason why I buy it on my PS4 is because I'd rather just play on one console instead of switching back and forth between both.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I love my PS4 and I love my Xbox, but my Xbox has definitely been neglected because there's nothing to play that I can't play anywhere else.
It's true. I think they both have their uses, and they both have their quirks. Like, I mean, me specifically, I think things that I found about Xbox were more about community. Like, I think the community outline is a little bit more. I think it's just more accessible than the PS4. Like, I can, let's say, for example, yeah, like there's a community for Final Fantasy, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
on Xbox or PS4. It's just a lot more. There's just a lot more. I don't know. There's just a lot more. I think the way that it's just easier for me to connect with in that particular sense than it.
What do you mean, like using chat features and stuff, or what do you mean, like getting a hold of like your friends?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they both have those things.
Yeah,
it's just an apples and oranges type of thing. But
yeah. You have a preference for the way they go about it more than another.
Exactly. So like I would do that more on the Xbox versus just playing games on PS4. Like I play PS4 games all day. Versus it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to Xbox and what are these people doing? Blah blah. But that's really what it is. It's just apples and orange features. That's all.
Yeah. No, I get it. I actually I agree with you. Like I like the UI for the Xbox and the chat features that they have, because you know, you can open up a lot of menus without having to interrupt your game. Well, I mean, you still have to stop the game, obviously, but like you don't exit the game completely. Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah.
You don't exit the game completely to like scroll through a million different subfolders and options and things like that on the PlayStation, whereas like the Xbox, a lot more things are accessible when it comes to like, what do you want to do? You want to invite this person to a party? You want to send a message? Do you want to add this person? What was that?
You just actually made that clear to me.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping score though.
Yeah. I'm probably going to jump on my Switch more often right now, because right now Destiny 2 is pretty stale. I mentioned before I'm playing Final Fantasy Online on my laptop when I can, but on my Switch, there's a couple of games I'm trying to catch up on, such as Blasphemous, which is like somewhat like a side-scrolling Dark Souls game. And then there's Carrion, which I want to play, which is like you play as like a monster destroying a lab facility. So it's just think of it kind of like Aliens, the movie, but you're playing as the alien.
Oh, cool.
And then, you know, of course, there's a bunch of other small games on the Switch that I want to play and hopefully record and stream with everybody who listens. But yeah, my PlayStation will probably be neglected for a little bit as well.
It's the seasons, I guess. It's like you know, there's always a season when you're on one more versus the other.
Yeah. August is usually one of those times where like the summer games are starting to die down and there's not much else to play until like October, November, when like Call of Duty will show up, or Battlefield, or one of those AAA games will show up in just before the holidays.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, man. How about I know we were just fading on the topic earlier, but did you have any choice remakes that remakes that in the sense of like, right, it has its negative connotations, but are there anything that, let's say, for example, that you would buy over as a remake?
Oh yeah, I mean
as a remaster, sorry.
That's as a remastered.
Yeah.
So not like one of, like we talked about before, like a remade from the ground up type of thing, just something like with a
like something you had like on a previous generation, but they just slapped a pin on it.
Oh man, I don't know. Nintendo does that really well. They came out with Legend of Zelda games, like remade in a way, like the Legend of Zelda Two Worlds and then the Legend of Zelda, not Wind Waker. Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening.
All right, yeah.
So like that was one of my favorite Game Boy games, and then they basically did a remastered version, fresh coat of paint, but it still plays exactly the same. Just better graphics, almost the same dungeons, almost the same enemies. They obviously changed things up because it was a freaking Game Boy. So those games I had bought and beat and loved. I don't know if there's anything that I would just play a remaster for. I'm not too crazy about remasters unless there's like really something that I haven't played in a long time.
I get you.
Honestly, I think if anything, I like if I played Twisted Metal right now, I would love it.
And
like, yeah, the graphics are so bad now. Like they're so blocky and so like just like it's a mess. It's a mess of blocky pixels. So I could not play it, but the gameplay would still be solid. So if they did a remaster of that, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, you're right. One of those tough pixelated games from the. I mean, they did that with Tomb Raider, right? They did like a remastered version of the first one.
Yeah, they did. They did, yeah. They did do a remaster. I don't think I played it actually. I think the latest Tomb Raiders I played were those actual remakes with the younger Lara Croft.
Yeah, those. Yeah, speaking of those are excellent. Like
yeah.
I played both, and yeah, Rise of Tomb Raider was great. I definitely enjoyed that. But yeah, just the first of the remake Tomb Raider was absolutely phenomenal. Like, it was so great that they made a movie, man. That's how great it was. You remember they made a.
I never got to see that movie. Was it any good? Because I heard it got bad reviews too.
I mean,
what was her name? Something Vikander.
Vikander, yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta look that up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we went see that in the movie theater as well. It's like, well, they did the game. I mean, it was a video game movie in the sense that it was tropey.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't bad. Like it still had the game action in it as well. Like it was a blockbuster type shoot 'em up movie.
Yeah.
It was well executed. Like I'll give it that much. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why it did so bad then. Like, I mean, the other Tomb Raider movies with Angelina Jolie, like they were campy and tropey and everything too, but they were still well received.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if maybe it had to do with Angelina Jolie or maybe, what's her name, Vikander.
The marketing was not there for the movie. Like they were just really like leaving it to the video game. It's like, well, the video game did so well, we don't really have to promote the movie. Like they just want this movie. So I guess it fell on that notion just because they didn't market it as well. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
I can see that. Yeah, they're just like, yeah, it's time for another Tomb Raider. I mean, I know a lot of production studios, they tend to, like, and this is the same thing with Fan Four Stick, which is Fantastic Four. They tend to make movies regardless if it's shitty or not, just so they can still hold on to the rights. And I know, like, they've even said this is the reason why Fantastic Four, that last one, was so bad, because they didn't give a shit. They just wanted to make a movie because they have to make a movie within a certain period of time in order for them to still hold on to the rights of the movie.
I gotta be honest with you. Yeah, all the press they got was bad. It actually did divert me from watching it in the movie theater.
Fantastic Four?
Yeah, just based on the press, I didn't see it,
dude.
I did recently watch it on Disney Plus, and I was like, "Oh my god, they were right."
Yeah.
It just drags the fuck on, and
dude. I saw it in theaters, and I'll tell you this: I swear to God, I have never ever in my life, like, I've seen bad movies before in theaters, but this is the first movie I've ever walked out on.
Oh my god!
I walked out before the movie ended. That was how bad it was. I was like, I fuck this. I'm done. And I left. I left pissed.
Yeah, man. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, and then eventually I saw the ending because they posted it online, so I was just like, all right, let me just finish this because it's free now, so I'm gonna watch this and see how bad it was. And oh man, I'm so glad I left. It was really bad. What do you think of not now that we're talking about movie remake tie-ins for video games or whatever? Did you hear that Spider-Man dude, what's his name, is going to be Nathan Drake?
Oh, yes, I did hear about this.
Yeah. So they're already filming.
I gotta be honest, man. I really hated how they did my boy Nathan Fillion on that.
Yeah.
They did a fantastic fan.
You saw that?
I saw that.
So good.
Phenomenal.
So good.
And those are one of the speaking of that specifically. Those were one of the first games that I basically on PlayStation is that once I got it again was the Uncharted games. The Uncharted games were like the first things that I had on it. It's like, this is great. And then the Nathan Fillion fan movie came out, and it was like, oh my god, they're gonna get him. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
he's coming back, and it's like, no, they shot him in the foot. They said, fuck him. We're not giving it for you. You're not. They're not playing him.
They almost casted Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake. And then after that bombed because it got such bad reception for casting him, they still casted him. He's still going to be in the new movie. You understand? He's going to be Sully now.
Oh my god!
It's like they had to have Mark Wahlberg for some reason. Why? And I'm not knocking this dude. Tom Holland.
Yep.
So I'm not knocking on Tom Holland for. Because he's a great actor and I love him in Spider-Man and I've seen him in a couple of little things here and there for other stuff and even like some voiceover work for some animated movies like Onward, but to do a young Nathan Drake right now when right now you need the real Nathan Drake is like it's just dumb. And then you have Mark Wahlberg as the young Sully. Like it's all wrong. All of it is wrong.
It sounds like 21 Jump Street to me. Like that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
When you put them together on a poster, it's like, what the fuck is this? I don't have a lot of faith in that, man. I especially if they're gonna progress with him as a character in the later movies. He's got to look like James McAvoy did in Glass, or right? Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, he's got. Wait, Nathan Drake has to look like James McAvoy?
No, I'm talking about body type, like.
Yeah. Because Tom Holland, I mean, he's tall, he's scrawny, or maybe short and scrawny. I don't know his height. And yes, I get it. Like, I think he'll make a great young Nathan Drake, and he still could have done a young Nathan Drake as like flashbacks and stuff like that, if anything. Yeah. But like, what everybody knows is the tall, handsome, suave, snarky, Nathan Drake, who has a build, who's a tough guy. Like he's a new age Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you have a kid doing it now. So like, what's going to happen in the future? Like, are the future movies still going to continue him in his young years, or is he going to do it when he's older? Is he going to bulk up in the next movie so he can actually look like Nathan Drake? Like, what's the deal? Like, you got to have the guy look like him and act like him, and it just doesn't fit. Yeah,
I agree. It doesn't go. It's the square peg in the round hole. Just
yeah,
that's what it is. I don't know why they're moving forward with this. Whatever, man. Best of luck to him.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll be there when it burns, crashes and burns.
Yeah, we'll be there. I still see it. I know I'm still going to end up watching it just out of sheer curiosity. And I support Tom Holland and anything he does because he's still pretty cool. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Well, anyways, that is all the time we got for today. Gene, I'm glad you joined us for today. I hope you join us with some other future episodes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, and I'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
What's up, fellow Guardians, gamers, and drinkers out there? Thank you again for listening to another episode of the Drunken Guardian podcast. Don't forget to visit us at thedrunkenguardian.com or our Instagram at thedrunkenguardian. We also have a YouTube channel as well where we upload all of our episodes and future cocktail content. So I do want to apologize about the sound quality for today. There was a lot of background noise going on. As you can tell, there was a storm going on. Also, the episode itself was kind of done at the last minute. So a lot of the recording as well was very much improvised. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed recording it with Gene. It was good to hear from him again. Hopefully that he joins us again for another episode along with the other guys. We have plenty of other topics to talk about, and I will hope to see you all soon in another episode. Thank you guys for listening.